Before we start, I would like to ask your help to do two things. First, tell a friend or two who you think might like the show. And second, please rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The more reviews the show gets, the more likely it will even appear in search results. Thank you, and now on to the show.
They make the trek out to Burning Man for a week and a day. After a lot of work, oh, there's a lot of play. Party, 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 drama, 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 bitch, bitch, bitch. Year after year, they come back to scratch that itch. They all say their lives have been changed. After many years, lives have been rearranged. That change is what this show is all about. You'll see the impact of Burning Man up and out. So sit back, relax, and cancel all your plans. These are the stories about the shadow of the man.
Hello, and welcome to the Shadow of the Man Show. I am your host, Andy. Oh, spank me. It's that Andy. Today, our guest is the Assless Chaplain. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. For those guests who don't know, there's a whole little bit of a rigmarole beforehand. So I've been waiting to just say, first of all, I literally didn't hear about this podcast till you reached out to me. But one thing, I feel incredibly honored because I am not a person who is involved with, like, pays attention to pop culture. I don't give a shit about celebrities. But I do have a soft spot for my Burning Man celebrities, and your list of people you've interviewed before me makes me feel really honored to be here because you've interviewed some really amazing people, and I
Oh, yeah.
am just so amazed that I'm getting the chance to like have my name on a website with them, to be honest.
Well,
So
by the time this airs, this I think is going to actually. We're recording this in September 15th. I think that your show is going to be like in April. It's gonna be I'm a little ahead. So yeah, we had Danger Ranger on, Monique Sheese from Africa Burn, right? Just yesterday it dropped Diva Marisa from
Eva Marisa, that's a big one.
yeah. Next week or next one's going to be Metric. If you know him from DPW.
I don't know metric. I gotta tell you, mine like to be on a website with Adriana.
Adriana, yeah.
God,
I'm going to be interviewing. See, by the time this comes out, you will have heard Harley, Harley Dubois. She's going to be on.
cool,
Like,
cool.
I have
Wow.
like a
See, like I don't know what I am doing on this list. I have like I have no idea. This is like if Burning Man had like the Time 100 most influential people, and somehow they were like this guy. It's amazing to
well
me.
to
Thank
to,
you for having me.
to kind of. Oh, you're welcome. But I had heard you on the Accuracy Third podcast, and we're not going to go into any politics, but I don't know. I heard your story, and you've been around a while. So like, yeah, let's start in the beginning. So I heard on there, like you first heard about Burning Man when you were like a teenager. What was it like?
So yeah, I was I had a best friend named Danny, and amazing, amazing human. And he and I knew each other since we were three. And when we were coming up in boring ass Indianapolis, we found ways to make our own fun.
As
Uh,
teenagers do. Yeah.
you know, and I started, it was sort of a bit of a golden age of the internet before social media ruined it, but there was still information there. So, like, if you were a kid who, was into psychedelic experiences back before that became cool and it was just a thing that bad kids did, you could find information on the internet and on like a bulletin board, to be honest.
And so what year was this? Like,
So I was born in 82. I think I was about 15, so we're talking 97. I read something on a bulletin board about somebody made some comment about this thing called Burning Man where people run around naked in the desert on acid. And I remember telling Danny, I was like, we should go to this one day because that's so much more fun than running around in your parents' backyard naked on acid. Plus, there'll be grown women. Like, how great would it be if there's an actual naked woman too, you know? we were young. We were looking for, we thought ourselves like little Hunter S. Thompsons. We were looking for crazy stuff to do. And whatever, that was it. Like we were 15 in Indiana. It's not like we're going to Burning Man right after that. Like we got high school and we didn't even have a car at the time. And then maybe around 8 years later, we were both passing through Indianapolis at the same time. And we both happened to be like in a place in our lives we didn't have anything else on our schedule really. And he was like, "Hey, let's go to Burning Man." I was like, "Burning Man?" He's like, "Remember that?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." And so this is how it was back then. We drove to like an independent record store, bought 2 tickets.
So, what, 2005 or something like that?
2005, yeah. He brought like his little tiny tent, no shade, with some basic camping stuff. He put me in charge of food. I bought like a bag of wasabi peas, like 12 cans of green beans, and like 17 gallons of liquor, and we drove out. We took like 2 weeks to get there. We stopped basically at the house of any woman we knew along the way.
So
And we
you
got to
drove
Burning Man,
from
and we
India.
basically set up camp like in the middle of somebody else's camp on Outer Rim. This was open camping. This is back when almost everybody did open camping.
Yeah, like 90% of Burning Man was open camping like that. Yeah.
And according to my good friend Curtis, who I think is genuinely the greatest male human I know, he was part of that camp then. He still camps with me. This, 2025 was his 21st burn. And he describes, like, Danny and I were at each other's throats by then. We were basically brothers who were on the road for 2 weeks, just getting hammered every night. And then as soon as we get to Burning Man, it's like a dust storm. We don't realize it's a dust storm. We're trying to set, we're super aggravated. We get lost from each other. And so we're just yelling at each other into the night, like, "Hey, dude, where have you been? You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I've been through. Stop puking in my shoe." These are quotes that Curtis remembers. I don't remember any of this. And in the morning, they come to see, like, who are these fucking yahoos that like showed up in the middle of our camp, and our tent is just a tiny tent with no shades, so it's super hot. So he and I are just passed out naked on the bare playa with just fucking bottles of like empty bottles just littered around us, like we're about to leave a national park in worse shape than we found it, We were the worst burners. We were the worst burners. But the overwhelming goodness of our camp, they were like, I guess we'll show them the way. Like they fed us, they like taught us, and we fell in love with Burning Man, and it was our thing. It was clearly like right then and there we realized it was like the thing that needed to be a part of us forever, that like we'd never run into. It was like kind of the thing we were looking for that we never knew we needed to find.
So, so one quick question. I know, like when I and everybody, here's a show knows my story, but like we read a bit of the survival guide. I think it was like enough to get like the directions of how to get there, and there was like,
We did not read the survival guide. We
yeah, it
did
was like
not.
1 gallon of water per day, like yeah, whatever, and then we dug a hole, filled it with like wood, made like a fire pit, like we did when you go camping, and then at the end we just like, oh, but you go camping, you cover it up, and you walk away. Like, so did you guys actually read the survival? Because nowadays people are just like so
No,
well prepared, and they
no.
do all this stuff. But
Danny wrote a bit on the website, and he tried very hard to tell me like I wasn't prepared, but like I'd been hitchhiking around India for 5 months, like so Danny and I always had these different ways of looking at things. Like he was always super prepared for everything, and I was always like, I don't need all that. Like his joke with me was, you don't have to live like a refugee, Gaby. My real name is Gabriel. So and I was like, nah, but it's fine. I don't mind. When I was hitchhiking around India, like I went not like to the Taj Mahal. I didn't see the Taj Mahal at all. I like hitchhiked around little villages and stuff, and so like I just sleep on the ground somewhere unless somebody was like, you can stay in my house, which generally happened. It was the little villages in India. There's lots of really people who are just like, hey, why would come here? But so I thought I was prepared for everything. I'll tell you this, the only thing I feel like I really was prepared for from my experience in India was um, one thing I learned in India is opium will stop your digestive system from doing anything. And so I still had a bunch of opium left over from India, and
what?
because So like, but the porta potties at 4 p.m. are genuinely Dante's hell, right?
Yeah.
So like that was my thing. In the morning, I'd wake up, I'd use the porta potty, and then I'd eat this Indian opium I have, which doesn't have as strong of a mental effect as people think, but it would stop me from having bowel movements for, until the next morning. So that
Okay.
was, but like we were so unprepared we were just assholes. We were just idiot kids who had no idea what we were doing. We didn't do the basic things of reading we brought enough water, but we also brought far more booze than the amount of water we had could counteract, you know? Um, but we were young. Your body is able to deal with it, and we had
Not
these
so much
older, more
anymore. Yeah.
experienced people around us. A shout out to my camp mom. Her playa name is Mona. She encountered Burning Man sometime in the mid or late 90s. She would always go camping in the Black Rock Desert. She's from Reno. Ran into them, helped them truck out trash actually, and then she act so we get 2 tickets every year that she sells us. That helps us make sure everybody gets tickets. It's not as big of a deal now, but it used to be
Mhm.
because she came up with the Burning Man logo and gave it to
Oh,
them
really?
as a gift. And they were like, "You'll get 2 tickets forever." Now this is when like tickets were like $40 and nobody even checked to see if you have tickets.
Yeah.
Nowadays she gets, whatever it is, $1,500 worth of tickets every year that she just sells us at face value, and we know we have those 2 tickets on top of anything else we get from the org
Wow.
or the lottery sales.
So
But
does Mona still camp with you guys nowadays? Or-
I really want her to come back. She says maybe if we build her a nice enough art car, she will. But she's, Mona in her heart is younger than I. But your body breaks down over time, and the ply dust ain't good for you. So we always stop when we are on our way. We always stop at her place and hang out with her for a bit. Um, she loves seeing us. She has a particular liking for my campmate Stupid. Stupid, contrary to the name, has a certain charm that
Heart of gold.
no woman can resist.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for those women, Stupid is happily married, but they always love to see him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I've always like since I started going in '96. It's like I back then it was my girlfriend, now my wife, and so and she people always like, oh, have you ever brought her? I'm like, no, no, her.
So you've gone as much as you have, and you've never brought your lady.
Oh no. Oh no, no, no.
Oh,
I
interesting.
mean, because her whole thing is like, okay, if it's hot, there has to be water, right? And then she doesn't like crowds. And like we live out in the country, and she's like, it has to be quiet. So like if she hears a dog barking like 2 miles away, she's just like, oh, shoot it.
So that's an interesting thing you bring up because to be honest, I'm kind of that way. Like I live in the country and like I love to visit say New York or LA or Paris, but like I get really, really anxious after a bit. But I don't get that at Burning Man. Even though Burning Man is pretty dense, like it's very different. You like walk out and
Maybe
you
it's
walk the streets of
temporary.
Paris. What's that?
It's like maybe because it's temporary, like it's just you're just visiting.
No, that's not it. I
Hmm.
think it's this. Like you walk out and of a hotel in Paris and you walk the streets of Paris, and there are a few things going on. Number one is it is more people actually than Black Rock City. As much as we think Black Rock City is dense, like a built-up city is more dense. We don't have high rises in Black Rock City. The second thing is those aren't your people. They aren't. They look away. They don't look you in the eyes, right?
Mhm.
So these are all people who they're not adversarial, but they're also not comfortable to you. And the third is you're not home. Unless you grew up in a big city, you're not home. Now, I didn't grow up in a big city, and I'm uncomfortable in big cities, but Black Rock City is one of my homes. It's not my only home, but it's one of my homes. I know I'm okay. Like if I get overwhelmed, I go back to my camp, I go back to my tent. I'm fine. Or for that matter, I walk to the nearest camp and just be like, "Oh, I'm kind of freaking out." And people will be like, "Oh, it's okay." You know what I mean? Like so that I guess is number 4. There is a different vibe. Like you can't do that in New York. You can't like go knock on the nearest door and be like, "I'm having a tough time with all the people around." and then people take care of you. They'll be like, get the fuck away from my door. In Black Rock City, you can go to like your nearest camp and just be like, I'm having a really tough time, guys. And immediately the people's first reaction will be, how do we take care of this person, make sure they're okay? They might have in the back of their head, I hope this isn't a crazy person, right?
Especially now if there was a freaking murder, like I wonder how that's going to change things. Yeah.
I
Let's see, have you ever combined your two loves, like gone to a city or a foreign or a place you haven't been to, but then you meet up with burners there?
yeah, yeah, Paris. For sure. It doesn't change the level of anxiety. It certainly is a big pull to the
Mm.
place, right? Like, because one of first of all, you get to see your people. Second, you know, if you meet up in a big city with burners, they're gonna take you to do the cool stuff that isn't in the travel guide, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like so yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the things that I know you're kind of big on is what's what does Burning Man do for you outside of Burning Man? And I think I could genuinely list 100 things that are all
We'll
different.
we'll get to
But
that.
like one of them is you can go places and find cool people. Like I'll say, like going to Paris, I love the French. I love
Mm.
French culture, but the French are a little bit like say a little bit of a wall around their hearts. They're a little bit of like protective about
Standoffish.
themselves emotionally,
Mm.
like keep a level of emotional distance that is hard for me. But French burners are not that way. So I can go to Paris and I can find burners and they don't do that to me at all. Like I don't have to play this guessing game of like what's the French etiquette here? How do they really feel about me? That your typical French person I do that with, right? Like Burning Man is a cultural overlay that is often stronger than the culture that people came from. And so it creates this kind of culture we can tap into that goes across all these other cultures that frankly in a certain way are inferior cultures both in terms of quality and in terms of strength.
Mm. Oh, definitely. So getting back to like your Burning Man experience. So 2005, you and your friend Danny go completely unprepared. You go to open camping and you meet some people so I take it like you were hooked, right? So like what got
So
you to yeah, so like what got you to come back? And what'd you do after when you came back?
Um, so Danny actually, the reason we were in between things is he decided to move to Israel and join the Israel Defense Forces. So he couldn't come back the next year. So my second year, I came with my best friend from college, a guy named Eli, like a Brooklyn, New Yorker with honestly, like he and we ended up rooming together in college. We were like the total odd couple. We were like Ernie and Bert, right? And um, the college we were at was outside of Baltimore, so he helped me a lot to figure out as some little Indiana boy, like how to navigate urban life and just life in general. I grew up in a very Jewish bubble in a place that wasn't Jewish at all. Like social skills weren't my strong suit necessarily in every way. But he being like a kid from Brooklyn was just incompetent with any sort of physical skills, right? So I invited him to Burning Man. We figured our shit out. I mean, literally, I like built like a shade for us to have that I think broke down pretty quickly. Like I slept and like our sleeping situation was I had a piece of carpet taken out of a dumpster that we put next to the rented minivan, so we had a little shade in the morning, and we just slept in sleeping bags on that, and just were covered in playa dust by sunrise every day, and it was no
Works.
problem.
Yeah.
And it was open camping. We met our neighbors, fell in love with those we needed to fall in love with. We're having a decent time with the ones we didn't need to fall in love with. But so I didn't do much more. As time went on, as I kept doing open camping, we'd come up with our little bits of kind of playa magic. Back in the day, people didn't all come with theme camps, so you just came up with your little bit of performance art. Maybe run up on people and pretend they're celebrities and take a lot of pictures. I remember one year, this is when realized I was going to be a weird that like Burning Man was the place I was gonna bring my weirdness out is I had a whole group of people with me and we were like the party EMTs, right? If like people looked like they weren't like having a great party, we were gonna come and get it going,
Uh,
which honestly sounds super annoying to me now, but whatever, it's what we did. And I remember this one guy, he clearly ate too many mushrooms, and I was like, hey man, I'm like, a medical person. You should let me give you a prostate exam. And he was like, what? And I was like, dude, did you come here to spectate or participate? So me and this dude are having this talk, and he's just like having so much trouble wrapping his head around it. It's his first year. He wasn't ready for Burning Man. Honestly, like I was being an asshole. Like when I look back on it, it was a little too much to drop on a dude. Finally, luckily, his like friend, who's clearly also tripping out and is just like basically standing like 20 feet back because he wants no part of this, like runs up and is like, dude, just run with me right now. And I look at Eli and I'm like, dude, I don't know what I would have done if he called my bluff. And he's like, I know what you would have done. And I was like, fuck.
get the glove now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't know, man. Like it was just, you've heard the saying nowadays that um Burning Man used to be a place weird people go to feel normal. Now it's a place normal people go to feel weird.
Yeah.
Uh, it's not binary. I think I would say it's shifted to more normal people trying to feel weird who aren't really necessarily cut out.
Mm.
Tourists, yahoos, as we used to call them. I would say like one thing, like when I showed up at Burning Man, I definitely was like, I don't feel weird here. This is the kind of place where like how I am is okay. It
Mm.
makes sense. That's what I felt my first time, along with a lot of other things. But I think that was maybe the big hook that caught me in the cheek
Uh,
was like, so I was a bad kid growing up, and my parents rewarded me for my bad behavior with 3 years in a military academy in a very rural part of Indiana, full of big ass shit kickers. It was not easy being small and Jewish and weird. And I realized how weird I was, and I learned to like celebrate it. I was like, okay, I'm the weird kid, and by my senior year, people were like, ah, he's who he is.
yeah.
It's cool. Um, I went away to college at a small liberal arts school that was like the opposite of military academy. It wasn't mostly male; it was 70% women. Actually, it used to be a women's college, very lesbian, very feminist. It was wonderful. Goucher College, shout out to Goucher College. Uh, and it was a place you could be pretty weird, to be honest. But like you get out of college and now you're an adult, there isn't like, you know, a small liberal arts school is like a safe place to be a person who can, it used to be a place you can be a person who's just gonna be himself without worrying about the repercussions of the real world.
Yeah.
You get out of college and you have to deal with the real world. You go to Burning Man and it's still the real world, maybe the realer world, and like you are what you are, and back then, what was great about it, what I loved, what I actually missed, is people still give you shit for being weird, but they're weird in their way. Like back then, Burning Man, people weren't nice when I first got to Burning Man. Like in my camp, the people were kind, they took care of us. They knew, like, as burners, they wanted to bring us along as burners, but they weren't nice. They told us shut the fuck up and stop being assholes, like, and I loved that. I miss that a bit, like that hard edge of. I remember going to my first bar there, like it was just a little innocent idiot from Indiana and Baltimore, and being like, "Hey, is this a gay bar?" And they're like, "Every bar at Burning Man is a gay bar." And I was like, "Can I get a drink?" And they're like, "What are you gonna do for me?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll tell you your name in Hindi. What's your name?" And the woman luckily said saffron. I knew how to say saffron in Hindi because I'd been in India for a while. And they're like, "All right, we don't know if that's actually it. Bend over. We're gonna paddle. We're gonna beat your ass. Like you're gonna be red, and then you can have some drinks." And awesome. Like if I'm bartering my little tiny ass for drinks, like that's the best deal I've gotten on drinks in a while.
Yeah, yeah. No, but it's something interesting what you said, like about it, because years ago, like my brother and I, like we had this camp which was called the Cult of Distraction, right? And so we had a bar, and it, I don't know. I think it was just like the nature. Like it was a beautiful bar, and it was a wonderful setting, and we brought only enough alcohol for like one night. But then it's like, it's like the oil in the temple, but it miraculously lasted. You
Yeah,
know, and
because other people gave you drinks in the meantime. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
people like, you know what? I brought this booze, but I'm having more fun hanging out here with you.
Oh,
And
wait,
so,
wait, what year was this?
oh, this was from 97 through like
No,
2006.
but the year you brought like one night worth of booze, a lot of your listeners don't understand that you probably showed up on like Wednesday or something, right? Like nowadays, Burning Man is very long, but we used to go for a shorter
Sunday.
time. No, Burning Man used to be shorter.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I remember we would get there Saturday, and then by Sunday we'd be like, okay, we're opening the bar, and then by Saturday, it's just like we have three times the amount of liquor that we came with, even though like the first night we ran out of all our booze, it was like. But anyway, the other
Yeah,
big
so
part of
so
it.
this is I want you to continue, but I just want to interject really quickly. I used to always go to the Golden Cafe because my then wife loved the Golden Cafe, and nowadays the Golden Cafe has a little bit of trouble having enough booze in stock. It used to be it was no problem because people would be like, "This is a great place," and everybody would bring booze knowing they were going to give it to the Golden Cafe. Now it's like an afterthought. So there has been a change. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, so now, I mean, that was back then when we were kind of younger, and our whole camp was like operating this bar, and something we came to realize like years later when my brother discovered he was an alcoholic. you know we're like, hmm, maybe not getting shit-faced drunk like every single night for like a week straight. And then like, and we were this whole act between the two of us, and we were like irreverent, and we were crazy, and we talked over people. And like you're saying, like back then it was like it had this kind of edge, and it was just kind of like, oh yeah, it's like people kind of like that. Nowadays it's like, if we even like one night on the playa, it's like we actually, this is the first year we went, it's like I think we had like a couple of drinks like one night. Like, and we actually got good night's sleep and everything, and it was like we had a really awesome night. But there's one night where it's like my brother had like a little bit to drink, and then all of a sudden everyone's just like, oh, he's that drunk guy. you know we're like, this used to be the thing like everybody
So,
came for, now it's like,
this brings up three things for me.
okay.
First, in 2012, that was my last year before I very mistakenly took 10 years off Burning Man, thinking like I
Oh,
needed to focus on other things in my life. It was a horrible idea, really bad idea. But I didn't go back for 10 years, so it was kind of my last year for quite a while. And I remember no one was rushing the man like a man burn night. And this was before the dude died. So it was before the dude died. And I was really like, what the fuck is happening? Like, I always thought like these people who rush the man are assholes, but I was like, but this is part of our culture. We're supposed to have assholes. So like I was like, I'm gonna rush the man. I'm like telling my cousin, I'm like, we're gonna run slowly so it's easy for them to catch us. It's gonna be symbolic. And I just remember this adorable woman who was tiny. I'm not a big guy. She was tiny, like God. My face was like no, and I was like, "Fuck, dude, everyone's way too serious now." I like stepped around her and ran and let him tackle me, and I didn't get far. I didn't mean to get far. So like, I do kind of miss the malbehavior, but we also, the city's bigger, makes some sense. I know I said I was going to talk about three things, but that was a forlorn hope. I'll leave it at that. I just clearly at some point burners became
yeah.
better behaved. The org wanted them to become better behaved for better and
Yeah.
worse.
Another thing that I remember talking about with somebody, like Burning Man used to be like a place where it's like you could say or express yourself however you want, but watch out because it's like physically like kind of dangerous, right? Now that's kind of flipped where it's like the physical danger, like they've been kind of sanding off the rough edges, so it's like it's a lot like a bit safer, it's a bit safer, it's a bit safer. But then like, in terms of like the radical expression, it's like now it's just like, oh, you can't say that, or no, you can't do that.
So part of it, I think, is, and you were talking about when I think it was the opera woman from Death Guild,
Diva Marisa, yeah, yeah.
Diva Marisa. that I think Burning Man has a very strong contingent that comes back every year that's pretty gray-haired, you know. But
Hmm.
we do have these people we cycle through. Some stick, a lot of them don't, who are quite a bit younger. And I remember, so like Mudburn year, I'll give a pretty raw and rough example. We got bored, and we were coming up with things to make us not bored. So we set up like a blinking arrow to actually our neighbor's camp who we went to visit, and these neighbors had a lot of young people, and these people were the most boring people ever. They just sat around and vaped their weed and didn't want to do anything. And we set up a game. Let's call it, is it pee or is it lemonade? And they were like, no, but you can't use actual pee. And I was like, fuck you. I'll use whatever I want. Like this is gonna be awesome. People will come here. They're gonna consent. We're not gonna trick anybody. And this game's gonna be fucked up because what else are we gonna do? Everything is mud. And they were like shocked. And I had this realization. I was like, well, what? It's really odd to me that at Burning Man, like, if you want to go out and get wild, you look for people with gray hair, not the young people. And we can talk about what made society like this, but it is a thing where these are people who, came up in they're coming up in a world where everything is recorded. And those of us who've been burning a long time never worried about anything being recorded at Burning Man. You could do whatever you wanted and it's fine. And, unless you're some idiot who, despite having a couple kids and living in a small town as a local leader, mentions that you set up a game called Is It Pure? Is It Lemonade? Nobody ever, nobody ever fucking knows. And, so, I mean, I think in a certain way it creates a demarcation. Like, which of us are actually going to take who we are to that extent to outside of it, and which of us are going to take who we are outside of it and bring it to Burning Man? And I think there's a pretty strong predictor in terms of age with that.
Hmm.
And I think it's great we have the young people coming. I'm glad we are. None of it. Look, I don't know how old you are, but I'm a lot older than when I first started burning. We don't want Burning Man to just be a thing for old people.
Yeah.
Anything that's just for old people sucks. But at Burning Man, for the most part, the young people suck more, to be honest. But but not all of them. I've met so many amazing young people who like came out their first year, camped on their own. Like when you ask them to do something for your theme camp because they decide to join your theme camp, come up with the best ideas. Like we need those people for the creativity, the energy. But a huge proportion of them are just people sitting around taking up space, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's definitely. I mean, like if this is not going to just be like a multi-decadal flash in the pan, I mean, it's like, yeah, you definitely got to like introduce like, you
Okay.
know,
Andy, I'm sorry, I'm hearing Coyote House. Hopefully it's actually not a big deal. Hopefully I'll be back in just a couple minutes.
okay. And for the
Um,
listeners, we have a little coyote
I,
situation
I
at.
know you don't like to edit, but you might have to edit out a couple minutes of dead time. I
Okay.
apologize.
Well, how about this? We'll put the show
Or you can
on
explain to listeners
hold.
while
We'll
I'm gone.
pause
It
and
shouldn't take long.
come back after the word from these sponsors. Okay, here we are. And now we're back after the words from our sponsors.
Sorry about
No.
that. That's that was actually one of the things I loved hearing Adriana talk about, where the fake ad, because I've always loved her fake ads. That some people
Oh,
see, we had that kernel of pains in the ass who can't take a joke already then, who are bothering Adriana about her fake ads. Let me, on that note, I'd like to share like a little story in
sure.
what year was it? I can't remember the year they had the Occupy Wall Street,
Oh,
like on the playa. So somebody built this amazing Wall Street. It was like Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and they're gonna burn it. And there was a huge Occupy protest. Now, to me, this was hilarious because like, who are you protesting to? Like, what are you? Like go to Wall Street and do it. That makes some sense. But you're at Burning Man. Like, what is the thing you're doing? So I always really admired the protest to save the man. I don't know if they
oh
still do it.
yeah. Like, don't burn, man.
Like, don't burn the mint, right? So I
Yeah.
got my campmates together and we wrote all these signs that were like, greed is good, fuck the 99%,
Eh.
whatever, clearly bullshit. And we showed up and had a counter protest. And I gotta tell you, it like broke my heart that not a single person realized this was a joke. We got so many, like, everybody like shot us daggers. This was before things in politics got more beyond free speech. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
someone like confronted us. The only person I ran into who didn't like seem to hate us was a guy who came up and was like, "Hey man, I think you got a lot of balls because I would never be able to do this, but I agree with you 100%." I'm like, that's not the
Yeah, dude.
fuck. Like, does nobody understand this is hilarious? Like
I
that
mean,
you
was
guys
there a
are
single
having a
person who
giant.
came up who was just let's like, that's really funny?
Yeah, nobody was like, this is hilarious, like except for us. I mean, we had a good laugh. I'm glad we did it. We had a good laugh in the camp, but like so
Yeah.
so there is this I think there is some more seriousness that's crept
Yeah.
in.
So I think that I was just looking up like Occupy. So I think Occupy was 2011. So this must have been 2012, I think.
2012, yeah.
Yeah.
It was my last burn. Yeah.
But I don't know. And I think this is also was kind of brought up on accuracy theory. Something which I completely agree with is that Burning Man is inherently political. It's like I get that. You know, it's like all art is like political, but I think what is should be foreign at Burning Man is partisanship. You know, where it's just like my team, your team, like I don't have it anywhere.
I mean,
But
I so this gets back to like, what does Burning Man do for you off Playa? And I
mhm.
think one of the things it certainly has done for me is to take a worldview based view of politics and not politics view based view of politics. So I remember when I first started coming, every now and then you'd see like the weirdo tech guy from San Jose who'd like have the Ron Paul sign up randomly. I was saying that a few times. And no, of course, Burning Man. When I was talking to Accuracy Third, I was like, I don't get why the art is political. And they were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you're right. You're right. What am I talking about? Of course it is. Look at I'm Fine, one of the greatest pieces of Burning Man art I've ever seen,
Oh yeah.
Uh, of course it is. I just think like the way that politics are practiced off Playa really don't fit into the 10 principles. And so when I see it being practiced that way on the Playa, I'm like, I don't think this is necessarily the place for. That being said, radical inclusion means radical inclusion. I didn't see this happening at the temple, but I saw, hundreds of comments debate on, there were some Christians trying to convert people at the temple.
Oh really?
It's like, should we include them? Should we not? And I'm like, it's not for us to decide, like, you don't want them included, give them a little bit of shit within limits, you do want them included, like, you think it's fine, whatever, then don't. Who cares? Like, it's
Yeah.
Burning Man. Let whatever's gonna. I genuinely, you what I love is you can go to the temple and you can see that somebody writes something like Free Palestine or a picture of an Israeli hostage. And for the most part, I've heard this has gone otherwise, but for the most part, you don't see somebody cross it out or tear it down. You see somebody put something else next to it.
Hmm.
That's a great thing for people to take off the playa. You can express your grief or your anger or whatever it is and not treat it somebody else as like it's not legitimate.
Yeah. Well, especially as we're recording this, the Charlie Kirk assassination was what, like 3, 4 days ago or something. You know, like people can express different opinions and not fucking kill each other, or dehumanize other people. It's like, yeah, it's like express your opinion. Like I've like, oh, I mean, you can engage in debate, right? I mean, you can,
We do a great job of that on the playa.
yeah.
How much fucking crazy shit that you're like, this person is detached from reality have you heard talking to someone on the playa? Do you ostracize them? No. You might be like, I'm gonna go get another drink because you don't want to have the conversation, but that happens to me all the time out there.
Uh,
Less nowadays, but still.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay, well, going back to your Burning Man experience. So, 2005, you first came, and then you came back in another year. So, have you been with like the same people? Like, because you said, or each year was
No,
kind of different.
no. It's so '05 we were with like the camp we just dropped in on. Then Danny went away to the IDF. I had a couple other camps in the meantime that was rotating people. It was always open camping, but kept in touch with my old campmates. It's morphed in different ways. it wasn't until 2022 when I started my own theme camp that I had a more kind of consistent crew because that's kind of the way Burning Man went and kind
Hmm.
of the way I wanted to go with things.
So that was the first theme camp you started because you went through 2005 to 2012 just open camping and then 10 years off and come back and it's like
Yeah,
I'm gonna do theme camp.
so Danny, I lost in a very, very difficult way.
Oh,
Out of privacy to his family, I won't discuss it
sure.
more than that, but it was very hard for me. I went into a bit of a tailspin for a few years. Kind of figured out how to move on. Was still, thinking I'm just doing the, mortgage, job, kids thing. My marriage fell apart, and it was time for midlife crisis. Now I could have spent my money on, I don't know, sports cars and hookers or something. But I wanted to actually take good advantage of the midlife crisis. So I was like, well, I mean, the biggest thing that's gone wrong in my life is that I'm not being a burner. Now, I wasn't being a burner in two ways. I was going to Burning Man. That's actually the lesser way, though that isn't how I thought at the time. Nowadays, I realize it was the lesser way, but I wasn't being a burner in my day-to-day life. So I decided to go back to Burning Man. I told my wife, she was supportive. And I said, though, like, I want to bring something back this time. Like, I don't want to just do a little perform, like, I want to give something to the playa. And I loved officiating marriages. It's the thing I did a little bit outside of Burning Man. Marriages are so happy and beautiful. And so I told her, I was like, I want to do a wedding camp. And for me, it was kind of two things. Number one, I get to kind of feed off other people's love when I'm in a dead marriage. And number two, Danny had actually in 2010, I had gotten legally married, and then 2 weeks later went with some of our wedding guests to the playa, and he planned a surprise wedding on the USS Nevada. He found a, in quotation marks, rabbi, so basically a guy who happened to have a yarmulke,
Eh.
string quartet. It was amazing. It was beautiful. It was the greatest thing anyone, like, a greatest gift anyone gave me. It was just an amazing night. So, like, for me, it was two things. A, I get to kind of feel that love from other people's love. And B, I always had trouble celebrating Danny, who definitely somebody to be celebrated, not mourned. And this way I could take the fire he lit for me and pass it on to other people. And it was literally one of, if not the greatest decision I've ever made, other than like having my kids or whatever. But like in terms of not normal life decisions, it was definitely the greatest one I ever made. Has been incredibly healing and heart filling and helped me do a lot of work on myself. But when I told my then wife, she just out of nowhere, it just came to her. She said, it should be called the Assless Chapel, and you should marry people while wearing assless chaps. Genius. And she made for me these red sequined assless chaps. They've fallen apart by now, but I still like took a cutting to put on the bottom of my custom made chaps, like as some, her and I are still friends. We're actually next door neighbors, just life changed. And so, yeah, that's how I started Assless Chapel. And I got to tell you, it is one of the very most important things in my life. And something like this year, we did a dozen weddings, and it like fills my heart up for the year. I know that sounds cliche and cheesy, but it's 100% like that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. So a couple things just mechanically. So assless chapel, is everyone in the camp assless?
No, we would never require that anybody uh, do any sort of nudity, right? Like it's encouraged, it's not required. We definitely give out chaps, and because of the nature of chaps, if you don't want to go, full Monty, we also have thongs and whatnot for both genders. The chaps you give back, the thongs you keep,
Well,
for obvious reasons. Um, people who plan the weddings ahead of time do tend to bring chaps. Other people, a lot of times people just want a Burning Man wedding. They don't really need to have their ass out while they do it.
mhm.
So,
I was thinking more just like with your camp mates. And how big a camp do you guys have?
so 22, we were eight.
Oh, that's a nice
Busy.
size. Yeah.
Then we were 15 for the next 2 years. And then this last year we have, so camp, we try to camp next to two camps, Kelly's and Burning My Crate. But those camps lately, they're not coming every year. So we take in people who would have gone to that camp.
Oh, okay.
This year, we took in a lot of people from Burning My Crepe and people who weren't necessarily there before, but are French people. Burning My Crepe is a French camp who were looking
Mm.
for a camp. So this year, we had 25, I think. So it was a big jump for me. It was a big thing as a camp lead to make that jump. It was not easy, but it was great. We actually had a wonderful camp dynamic.
Hmm.
I was very worried in terms of gray water from showers, all the things when your camp grows, but
Yeah.
people were wonderful. Despite the really bad conditions, we got everything that was not destroyed built by Monday night for the first round of weddings, and the weddings went great. Honestly, I think it was my best year in terms of quality of weddings, but it was my lowest year in terms of quantity, which there's probably some correlation there.
Wait, how many? You said you had 12?
So we did 12. Our heaviest year was Mud Apocalypse. We did 30, and it's just too much. Like I need to let
Like,
my campmates burn. I want to
wait, how
burn.
many weddings a day do you do? I mean,
So nowadays I'm better at setting boundaries around that, which is really tough because when people come and they want to get married, you don't want to turn them down, right? But this year I was like, I'm turning people down. Like they can plan ahead of time. They can come during our open hours. If a lot of people come before them, we're not going to fit them in. They just need to know that. So I've been trying to work on it because there are a lot of people who want to get married at Burning Man. There are not a lot of people to marry them, and to be honest, a lot of those who do, it's kind of like they take it very lightly and do it, and that's fine. We take it very seriously. Like you can bet money that at any wedding we're doing, people are gonna cry. Like I do like a 10-minute interview ahead of time. I'm pretty good at this by now of like how do you get to the core of their love. I actually started a practice where when I interview them, when I do the wedding, I use a nasal spray of pure oxytocin, which is like the hormone that causes feelings of love to create bonding. It
wow.
helps a lot it helps me do a good job, you know? And um, so next year I want to do a mass wedding at Center Camp on Friday, so anybody who couldn't get fit in will at least do something for them. B, I want to start doing workshops on like, here's how you plan and officiate a wedding. We need more officiants. We need more venues. We need a lot more for weddings. We really do. If anybody out there is interested, the asslesschapel.com has a 9-page guide to officiating and planning weddings. And you can also email Armadillo at weddings@burningman.org and get yourself into it. Put yourself out there. Let Armadillo know you're willing to do a wedding if people reach out ahead of time, and Armadillo will find you somebody and you'll get to have this amazing experience. And if you want any advice, thasslesschapel.com. I have the guide to it, and you can also just email me because people want to get married at Burning Man, and I want to have more people who can do it and do a good job of it.
So, do people? I mean, do you work with them like before they hit the play? Because I mean, like all these weddings
Both.
do your camp. Yeah, because I mean, I
Both.
imagine it'd be kind of hard for people to just kind of mosey on up and just be like, "Yeah,
Well,
I'm gonna get married."
so it's split. We do a few where people reach out ahead of time. If you want to get legally married, because I'm a California officiant, I need time to do the paperwork. Nevada doesn't have a lot of rules, but they protect their local wedding industry. So
Hmm.
if you want someone like me, a California officiant, to marry you, you got to let us know ahead of time. I work closely with the Pershing County clerk. I don't think she's thrilled about dealing with the guy who literally on the wedding certificates legally it says the assless chaplain at the assless chapel, but she does her job very well and she's very polite and nice and I adore her. I send her every year cards of the weddings that she solemnized or whatever, or certified my solemnification, whatever it's called. So we do have people who plan ahead of time. Most of the weddings are people who walk by or were seeking someone out or wanted or knew they wanted to ahead of time but didn't reach out ahead of time. The problem with that is we do fill up really quickly. But like I said, like I sit down with every couple and I ask them a lot of tough questions actually about their love. Like, what does love mean to you? Why are you doing this at Burning Man? And try and get to know them and try and, in the 10 minutes I know them, write a few bullet points. And then like, honestly, I always have two people assigned every year to making sure I have the right amount of all the different inputs to keep me, like the right amount of whiskey, oxytocin, let's say maybe a couple other things to like not be too messed up to marry them, but like be loose enough to be able to, because you got to do some improv when you don't know the people, like, and the best thing is with the vast majority of couples, not all, there's like a dynamic up there, like on the altar when I'm talking to them that like we have an electricity going between us. I have to say, like one of the cool things this year was there was a couple, I won't say their names because they have conservative family members, but she and he were like, "Hey, let's take a picture together," after the wedding. The wedding went great. It was beautiful, and I'm holding hands between them, and you could feel the electricity between them. I'm not like a hippy dippy dude, but I swear to you, I could feel like the love coursing through my body as a connection between the two of them, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. And I just want us to have more people who can facilitate this for all the people who want to have it happen.
So do you do like the weddings like actually like at your camp, or is it you're just like you just kind of help people facilitate weddings just like all over the place?
We have a chapel, an actual chapel.
Mm.
That's why it's called Assless Chapel. So most of the weddings happen at the camp. I won't do weddings outside of the camp unless people reach out to me before they get to the playa. It's a lot, right? Like I have times for weddings, so if you need me to ride out to something on deep playa to marry you, like that's a big commitment.
Yeah.
And please don't do it at 4 p.m., right? Like I do have, look, it's your wedding. In the end, in all likelihood, I'm going to go along with anything you want because I want you to have, you're going to Burning Man to have the wedding you want, not the wedding that like your great aunt Rosa wants you to have. So I'm going to go along with anything. But if you want to make it easy on an officiant, don't do it on open playa at 4 or 5 p.m. Like that's brutal for us, you
Oh,
know?
just because of the heat, you think?
The heat, you got to ride out, and then you probably going back to do more weddings, whatever, like, or you just want to not be completely dehydrated. And for me, honestly, like, I don't at all get hammered during the weddings, but like, I am going to have drinks. Just I've had my campmates review. Like, there needs for me, it benefits the couple if there's some amount of alcohol intake. That's fine if I'm at camp and I'm having a few drinks and I, have
Mhm.
unlimited water. If I have to ride out 5 p.m. deep playa, like you're really taking it out of me.
Yeah.
But again, if that's what you need, I promise you I'll do it. Like I will. It's your wedding. It's a once in a lifetime thing. And if that's what you need for it to be like the thing you need, awesome. We're gonna do it.
And I take it there's like other people who do weddings on the playa too. Or do you guys like have like your own like little like wedding like network, or you like
So
work?
like I said, there's a person called Armadillo who's a volunteer who answers the weddings at burningman.com email inbox and will put you in touch with people. We certainly let people get married at the chapel if they bring their own officiant. If there's people there to work the bar, we'll open up a bottle of sparkling, whatever. Um, but it depends what the person wants. Like, I mean, I've done all kinds of weddings. People who have married themselves, thruples. One guy married the streets. One dude showed up and wanted to be married to a puppet he made of himself. And so like some weddings are like joke weddings and it's easy to do, but like, and I'll do those. But like my thing is, people show up and they want a wedding that usually, like, here's the typical thing. They're like, it's gonna be a Burning Man wedding. It'll be kind of goofy, but there's some meaning to it. And I'm like, no, motherfuckers, everybody's gonna cry. I'm gonna get to know you as best as I can in the next 10 minutes, and I'm gonna make a speech and I'm gonna call on people, and we are going to make everybody cry. And this is gonna be something that strengthens your love, that like you don't just remember as some Burning Man thing, but you're gonna remember as like it's gonna be something from Burning Man you take into the rest of your life. Like that is what I take a lot of pride in doing. It's honestly,
Yeah.
other than maybe something like being a dad or whatever, like what I'm best at in the world. And and I love it. Like I've had people who are like, hey, we need you to like fly to another city. We want you to do our legal wedding in front of our parents.
Oh,
It's
oh,
because they get the wedding they want and they realize they're going to have another wedding that isn't the wedding they want, but they can control who the officiant is if it's not like a religious family.
yeah.
But they know they're going to have to like invite whoever's aunts, uncles, whatever. Uh, but they can control who the officiant is. And so I've definitely done weddings for people outside of Burning Man who the connection is through Burning Man.
Yeah. Wow. I've actually not been to a wedding at Burning Man. I think I've like walked past like people getting married, but
It's hard not to walk past them. I mean, they happen out on the playa in camps.
yeah.
I actually had a lovely experience. I was trying to run down a beautiful woman that I was looking after, and I made a decision on the way. I saw this wedding, and I was like, I don't see any sparkling, and I was like, look, I know I'm probably gonna miss her, but what has to happen right now? I like ran back to my camp and grabbed some bottles of sparkling wine and just like went up to a random wedding guest and was like, here. And they looked at me and they're like, "Who's this crazy?" And they were like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "All right, bye." And never found the woman, but that's fine,
Yeah.
Like that wasn't what was meant to happen. What was meant to happen, I was there to do some little thing as an aficionado of weddings to improve the wedding.
All right. So move on. So you actually talked a little bit about your life before Burning Man, right? Growing up in Indiana. So it's like rural Indiana, or is like actually like not in the city, right?
Basically suburban.
Yeah,
Much of the city of Indianapolis is basically the suburbs.
yeah. And so you're living in like California or something, right?
I live outside of a small town called Healdsburg in wine country in California. Um, It's odd, like this for me is a big thing, even to say some of the things I said here, because I guess you could say a lay religious leader maybe in the local Jewish community. Like I run the, I am the teacher for the local Hebrew school. I
Mm.
volunteer various times as like a volunteer financial guy for local schools. It's funny, like outside of Burning Man, I have this very, like very like I won't say cookie cutter because it definitely isn't that, but kind of like the things when you describe what makes an American, like volunteerism and I grow my own food and things like that. But I'm
Mm.
pretty open. Like my kids know what I do at Burning Man.
Yeah.
Everybody I volunteer with does. The groups I volunteer with when I've had like high leadership roles will be like, oh, we can't have like the retreat or the orientation this week because Gabriel's important to the organization will be at Burning Man, like,
Yeah.
and I've definitely shown up at stuff like covered in playa dust because like they planned it for the day after I was supposed to get back and it was the mud burn, so I got back like 2 minutes before.
So
And I love that.
was it Burning Man that got you to move to California out there, or?
Yes, yes, but not directly. I was at Burning Man. So I traveled for a year after college, mostly internationally, and I decided I'd spend the last 3 months driving around the US and see my own country because I hadn't seen that much of it at all. And after Burning Man, like I had some friends out in California in the little town I live in. I planned to visit for 3 nights. And I was down by the Russian River, is a river that flows through the town, and I saw an osprey catch a salmon in front of me, and I was like, if that's not a sign, then what am I doing with my life anyway? So I never left. That was in '05. Planned to be here 3 nights, and here we are, 21 years later.
It's so funny. We have a number of parallels. like my last year was 2011. I took 13 years off to like raise my son and do other things with my life. It's like that's the thing people need to realize. It's like Burning Man is not an all-encompassing thing. It's like life intrudes and you need to do other things.
So let's talk about two things. First of all, do you feel like it was really the right thing to take a full 13 years off uninterrupted?
I mean, I never really thought about it while it was happening. you
I
know?
mean, you can think about it now.
But I mean, was it the right thing? I don't know. It was just the thing, right? I mean, when I came back, I mean, I started getting involved, or like the local regional contact, is a good friend of mine, and he started bringing me back into like trying to like fold me back into like helping kind of get things going again because I started the Hawaii regional group in like 2002, and we did like multi-day festivals, like we did like every manner of things. And then when I retired, I passed it off, and it was in good hands, but then like slowly as time went by, like, and again, like I was just kind of like out of it, and I just was completely just not involved. And Hawaii is a very expensive place. It's very transient. So it just kind of passed from one hand to another hand, and then slowly over time things just kind of just fell off, and then now there's just like hardly anything
Okay.
at all happening. So I was kind of starting to get pulled back into the community maybe around like 2018, 2019, but then it kind of, or maybe 2020, but it kind of took until 2024 until I actually like went back to the
So
playa.
were you still a burner all of those 13 years?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, just like living my life. I mean, like I don't know. For me, it's like one of if you're saying like of the 10 principles, like which one do you like the best or whatever, like they're all kind of equal, but like I guess gifting, like
Okay.
for me, it was always about like I would just kind of do things for people and they would just be like, why did you do that? Just be like, because you needed help. And that's just,
Yeah.
here you go. And they'd just be like, oh, well, let me do something for you. I'm like, no, 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 no.
Well, and also sometimes it's not even you need help. I definitely remember being in San Francisco and just was like, I'll buy that guy's bottle of booze. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
not because they need help, but because I needed to feel in touch with that part of me, right?
yeah. Another thing I do is like tell people like you're at like a crosswalk, right? And you're waiting, and everyone's just like they're just there like looking at their phone, And it's like I don't know. One of the lessons I learned from Burning Man is just like the immediacy. I just kind of look over, and I'm just kind of like, "Hi," like lock eyes, and people kind of like, uh, this person's saying hello to me, I'm just like, beautiful day, isn't it? Oh, light turns green. Anyway, see you later, and just
Yeah, yeah.
what just happened? The person said hello to me.
So the past even just few days, I was thinking about something like Burning Man is not a religion, but in some ways it's analogous to a religion. And so I'm going to make an analogy. Burning Man, for me, is to me being a burner like Christianity, like Christmas is to a real Christian. So a real Christian, Christmas is the thing you hang out with the most of your community of any of the holidays. It's the most fun, but it's also very big and spiritual. It's like when you really think about a lot of who you are, but it isn't what makes you a Christian. You can be Christian without celebrating Christmas, no problem, right?
Hmm.
It's just that's like your big holiday. I very much so think about it that way in terms of like what it means that I'm a burner and what Burning Man is in my life. Burning Man is my Christmas to the extent that being a burner is like being a member of a religion, in this case, Christianity, right? Like, and you could whatever transpose that for any religion.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
saying
mean,
that's
every
just
religion, I
for
mean, I always
America.
kind of saw it as like more like a fellowship kind of thing. It's like, what do people need is like, they need this like human connection. Right. And so like, and that's what like any community, it's just like, I mean, it could be a temple, it could be a mosque, I mean, it could be a church. I mean, it could be,
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about it, I mean, obviously there's some differences, right? Like if you're a Christian, you have one principle, which is I accept Christ as my Lord and Savior, and that is a prescriptive principle. You are told to do that. I mean, the difference in Burning Man is you have 10 principles, and they are, other than leave no trace, they are all descriptive. They contradict each other, in fact, to a great extent.
oh yeah.
So it isn't dogmatic in that way, but still, like what makes you a burner is that you live those, not that you go to Burning Man. Like going to Burning Man is your festival as a member of this group. It isn't what makes you a member of the group.
So how has Burning Man impacted and influenced your life?
You okay with us going another few hours?
You have, let's see, about 13 more minutes.
Oh man.
Well, anyway,
Uh,
real briefly, like I was doing this thing on the playa this year. I was just calling the shadow shorts, where I was like, okay, I'm putting 5 minutes on the clock, and this is my challenge to you. You tell me how Burning Man has like impacted your life. Go.
13 minutes isn't long enough. I don't know. Let me try and run through my brain real quickly. First off, I think there's like the kind of material aspect of I grew up as like the intellectual one of two brothers, whereas the other one was one with physical skills, and we both had the other skills, but it was just kind of as immigrant kids, like what we were pigeonholed into to some extent. So I've always felt not confident with like the physical skills of it. So this really is a big self-reliance thing. At Burning Man, I learned I can I kind of learned it anyways working on construction sites, but like learned it, at Burning Man, I can not just do it for somebody else, but do these things for me. I gotta say, like the 10 principles really do guide my life in a lot of ways. I have to say I have more of an interest in art because of Burning Man. And I do lots of Burning Man stuff. I love going out to see Burning Man art. I love going to Burning Man parties. So that's kind of like, say, call it like the bottom tier, the really obvious one. I think there's an intellectual component, and so a lot of this I don't think is that really relevant to my life, in that like I see cityscapes differently, things like that. But like I'm not a city engineer, so it doesn't matter. But like one thing I'll say is there are things I've learned at Burning Man that I take to my life. Like I say my burn is my burn. If I have campmates that suck or I run into somebody who's an asshole, like no problem. That's all right. I'm doing my thing.
Yeah, you
They're
do
doing
you.
theirs.
Yeah.
I'm still in control of my burn, so I take that to my life, and I think there are probably a lot of kind of concepts like that that people can grab onto. I think there's kind of an emotional component that Burning Man is a real kind of recharge for me, and honestly, a place where even though everything is so wild and crazy, like it's so outside of anything else that I get to do more introspection than anywhere else. And maybe if we have time, I'll give you like an example from this year, but let me just say, I hate when people are like, don't make any big decisions for whatever it is, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks after burning. Fuck you. Make your biggest decisions at Burning Man before the stupid voices in your head tell you otherwise. Now, do not just go for it. Make the decision and then come up with a plan to implement it in the real world.
Yeah.
Don't just quit your job. If what you learned is you need to quit your job, come up with a fucking plan
Yeah,
and
don't
do it
write the
at
email
the
to your
right
boss
time.
right then. You're like, yeah,
But like, don't
and send
wait
it.
for all the things that like keep you from listening to yourself to keep you from doing the thing you need. Because Burning Man is a great place to make drastic life decisions. Every drastic life decision I made at Burning Man has been a good idea. Um, and then when we're talking about the emotional, there's also just the community, right? Like, I mean, I love going to see my burner friends, keeping, even if I don't get to see them, keeping in touch. We have newsletters, we have little calls, whatever. Like, like, this is why I actually don't like the term default world, because no, Burning Man is part of the real world. It's all the same shit. It's just something else we're doing that is in a context that's drastically different. And I'd say like there's even a spiritual component. Is Burning Man a cult? Is that I don't know. What I do know is if I want to learn about sacred sexuality, Burning Man's a really good place to do that. If I want to find ways that like my Judaism intersects with things that are outside of Judaism but allow me to strengthen the role that has in my life, Burning Man is a good place for inspiration from that. So, like I said, I literally could talk for hours about this. You said we have 13 minutes, so I'm giving like the really quick rundown on that. But I gotta tell you, like this year, I spent over a year doing all the work I could to let go of. Um, I'm just gonna go for a Burning Man story. It's gonna be a little bit long. I think it's a good way to explain things.
Sure.
I went to the Golden Cafe. There was someone behind the bar. Thought I knew who she was. Golden Cafe doesn't take photocopied IDs on the cup. She said, I need a real world ID, like an actual ID. Said, why don't you look at my cup first? She saw my name. Her and her husband, who is also behind the bar, were supposed to come out with the Assless Chapel in 22, our founding year. They were supposed to marry them and they were supposed to be part of the camp. They unfortunately had a tragedy in the family and they literally flew to Chicago and then flew right back. I said, looks like this is the year I'm going to marry you guys. Really amazing coincidence, right? These kinds of things happen at Burning Man.
And you didn't know that they were going to be there.
No idea. Went back to my camp to tell people, and somebody showed up and was like, "Hey, Burning Man Org has nominated you guys for best camp name on the playa. Friday, 6 p.m. Uh, award ceremony at center camp. The wedding was 7:30 on Friday. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a great Friday evening. Show up in my full assless chapel gear, thong, little lace things on my arms, bows in my hair, chaps, whatever. And it turns out nobody knows what the fuck I'm talking about. This is just some random dude who said some shit, right? So what do you do in that situation? I host an award ceremony for ourselves because I had people from the camp show up. I'm not going to disappoint them. During that time, this woman takes a look at me. This woman, I saw her walk by while I was performing weddings, so I couldn't run after her, and she was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Now, this is a big thing for me to have this song because for 18 years, the woman who's now my ex-wife has been the most beautiful woman. I didn't think I'd ever see anybody who I said that about other than her, other than my ex. And actually, I'm gonna ask, will you bleep her name? I mentioned her name once. I haven't asked her if you
Did
could bleep
you?
her name in the editing. I did once. Hopefully, you can bleep that. But anyways, um,
Not sure where that was.
so I look at this woman after the ceremony, and like one of my campmates, stupid, is like 100%. He's crazy about her. I know his type. He's gonna, and I just like jump over whatever is in front of me, and I'm like, hey, you look bored. We should hang out. She says, oh, I'm here for a twerk workshop. So fast forward 5 minutes, I'm doing a twerk workshop, and I have as much ass as I have ability to twerk. So this is going horribly for me. But I just saw the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. So I'm like, hey, come! I'm doing this wedding tonight. Why don't you come see a Burning Man wedding? It'll be really cool. She's from Poland, and she flies out on her own and camps on her own in open camping. So I am as turned on as possible because that is so self-reliant, right? I do the wedding. I walk away and I tell stupid. I'm like 1% chance this woman comes to our camp, but I had to even go for the 1% chance. Do the wedding. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's lovely. Stupid comes to me and says, someone's waiting for you. It's her. I can't believe it. But here's the thing, the Burning Man God's given, they take away. They give you what you need, not what you want. There were four wedding guests. One of them was her ex-boyfriend. She saw him and ran away. Apparently it was a bad breakup, something like
Mm.
that. Never see her again. By the way, if anybody knows Alexandra who camps on her own is from Poland, please put her in touch with me. I'd love to do a Zoom call sometime. Uh, Anyways, like what did the Burning Man gods give me from that? That I can fall in love with somebody else, even though it's a very shallow falling in love, and then that person might actually be interested in me too. Great takeaway. Next day I go to the temple because I don't go to the temple until I've done all the weddings because of mindset stuff, right? I'm going with stupid, and on the way to the temple, I see a piece of art I hadn't seen before, and it's a ballerina. This is big to me because my ex, I used to watch her dance ballet. I've loved ballet since I was 15. I used to watch her dance ballet before I ever even met her. It's a big part of the beauty I have found in her. She was honestly the greatest ballet performance I ever saw her do was at Black Rock City Ballet in 2010. It
Hmm.
was spectacular on the playa, whole different story, but just heart-rendingly beautiful, right? Clearly, the temple's telling me something, right? Before I even get there. Now, last year I wanted to write something in the temple about her and I breaking up, and all I got was out was the word love. So all that burnt with the temple was me writing the word love. Not a great thing. This year I knew exactly what to write. Burning Man told me, and it was the first love of my life because that was the thing I had to let go of. It was wonderful, but I had to let go of it and prepare myself to be the right person to find the second, hopefully last love of my life. I
Wow.
know I'm very traditional for Burning Man. I don't talk about the second and last, but um, so like when we talk about them, like that's a huge thing to take away. I have to tell you, I was in pain and anxiousness every day over this loss in my life. And that moment, it was like a snap. It shows the importance of ceremony and ritual. Like we can get rid of religion, but humans aren't meant to be without ceremony and ritual. And like that ceremony and ritual, clearly there's something in me, but it just needed that catalyst to get there. And some people might have church. I don't know how it is for those folks. I've never had anything like Burning Man to do that
Hmm.
for me.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Were you looking for a way to land the plane? Because I feel like
Well, no, I thought that you were gonna like be like, oh yeah, and I'm now with the Polish girl, and she's like, just gonna come in the frame. It's like, hey, Andy.
it would have been the right thing, right? Like if what I did was just run from one feeling to the next, that wouldn't have been the right thing, you
Well, there's
know?
always hope for the future.
Plenty,
You
for
know,
sure.
maybe next year in the play.
I mean, I go to Burning Man every year. What an incredible place to meet incredible people.
So, do you see yourself continuing to go, or you think at some point you're just gonna be like, ah, I've had enough?
I mean, I don't know, like if I'm on oxygen at some point and I can't handle playa dust, then I'll just be a burner without Burning Man, but yeah, to the extent that I can, things can come up in life, but
Hmm.
no, I have every intention to go back every year. It's such an important thing to me. It's crazy because when I my first burn, it was so much about the partying, and of course, Burning Man is still this wild place, but
What's
for me, there's no more stabilizing anchor in my life other than my kids, which are more quotidian anchor, but like in terms of like where my soul is. There's nothing I can imagine like Burning Man to like anchor me, bring me to a calm and considered place of who I am, which sounds insane even to me because I go pretty hard at Burning Man, to be honest. Yeah, I'll say this. Adriana, her thing was piss clear.
hmm
Literally had people from neighboring camps be like, you should go to medical because I've never seen green urine. Had people try and keep me from dumping my piss jug out in the porta potty because they're like only pee goes in there, and I'm like, I go hard. Don't know what to tell you. It's not supposed
green?
to be this color, but it is.
Ooh, at least it's not red.
At least it's not red. That's a good point. I would have gone to medical if it was red.
Wow. Well, I think we've gone the full hour and 15. Thank you so, so much. This has been a wonderful interview.
Thank you. I honestly feel like you somehow like carved a little face on the Mount Rushmore of Burning Man luminaries, for me, and I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe, rate, and review it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. The more reviews the show has, the more likely it will even appear in search results. Also, please tell a friend and share this show with anyone that you think might like it. Word of mouth reaches quite far, especially in the Burning Man community. If you would like to contact us, please send an email to shadowofthemanpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow Shadow of the Man on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, X, and YouTube. The links for all of these are available at shadowoftheman.com. Feel free to use any of these social media accounts to provide any feedback you might have. Your thoughts on the show are greatly appreciated. Thank you, and see you soon for a new episode of The Shadow of the Man.
Thank you for listening to this latest show. We have to make another one, so gotta go. Don't worry, for next month we already have one in the can. Very soon you'll be listening to a new Shadow of the Man.